The teams over at Starbreeze Studios and Overkill have done a great job at keeping everyone updated on the new features in Payday 3. And if you're like me, the announcement of the new Payday 3 beta has got you itching to rob banks and steal some fine art. But in case you don't make the cut for the closed beta and aren't able to check out the new features firsthand, here's a quick summary of everything we know so far. According to lead developer Andreas Hall-Penninger, Stealth and Loud are binary playstyles in Payday 2. There isn't much of a gray area and little room for interpretation. You either go all in from the start, or sneak your way through until you have to get loud. Especially if you mistime that one-pager response, then it's all over. Well, in Payday 3 they changed this. The developers created a better security guard AI from the ground up. The new guards track noises, sudden movements, and move players away from restricted areas. This gives the opportunity for more realistic stealth mission approaches and is a lot more fun. Something else I loved hearing about: negotiations. This is a fantastic mechanic that players can use to slow down the cops when they're en route. They do this by giving a few hostages away before things get bad, or you can hold on to them and use them later as body shields. Both of which sound viable in almost any situation. About the location of Payday 3, they chose New York City over DC because it's considered the capital of capitalism, which if you've ever seen or even heard of Billionaires Row, you'd find it hard to disagree with them. So, who will be in the next installment? All the original heisters will be present and accounted for, but they might look a little different. The developers wanted a realistic timeline feel, so your favorite felons are going to show some age. That means Dallas, Chains, Hoxton, and Wolf will likely sound a little bit older, and maybe have some mobility issues. I'm picturing Wolf with a walker and I can't help but laugh. Also, previous experiences from Payday 2 will carry over into Payday 3, which makes you wonder about the potential butterfly effect therein. Either way, I'm excited to see what happens. On the subject of technical development, new-gen console users can rejoice as they are first and foremost in the developers' minds. They wanted to create the best possible version of the game, so they decided to focus on development for the Xbox X, S, and PS5. And yes, Payday 3 will be cross-platform. Also, Starbreeze is launching the Starbreeze Nebula, which will be your hub for tracking achievements and friends across all platforms, kinda like Rockstar's Social Club. They've put a lot of care into the engineering behind this new installment, mainly because they didn't want to fix an older game such as Payday the Heist or Payday 2, and instead wanted each game to have its own identity. Which, seeing as how things like modding are so big in Payday 2, is understandable. Speaking of which, modding is still a bit fuzzy and it's unclear if that'll be supported, so it might be challenging with the implementation of Unreal Engine 4 and later Unreal Engine 5. So we're forced to wait on the verdict for the time being. Regarding gameplay, hard will be the default difficulty, so players new to this series should consider starting at a lower setting and working their way up. And overkill will be downright unfair. I can't wait to see how many speedrunners take that as a challenge. Sliding, mantling, and vaulting are new mechanics they've introduced for players, besides completely taking away health regeneration. No, I mean like no health regen at all. You instead will have limited armor plates as we see in a lot of modern FPS games, and when one breaks, it's gone for good. Until you find an armor bag. Your armor can also affect your weight and mobility, and certain enemies will affect your health more than they affect your armor. So you can't stack up on armor and expect to be fine. The devs have also heard the community's slander on Bulldozer's name and have decided to buff him. This includes new behaviors such as the bull rush and one hell of a kick if you get too close. The cloaker will be much more annoying, seeing as his new sound will continue to increase in pitch the longer you leave him alive. They're also introducing a new type of enemy called Nader that throws flashbangs and gas grenades to slow you down. The gas grenades will take away your ability to sprint and inflict damage over time. Tasers will now feature a partial stun, meaning you can move a little and shoot back, and then a full stun if you wait too long, at which point you'll need a friend's help to break loose. One of the more fascinating new mechanics introduced for the police is using shields as a proper moving cover. The cops will gather behind and shoot around instead of being out in the open. Also, if you have a lot of hostages in your possession, the police will adapt and use less lethal weaponry like flashbangs, meaning you need to be handy with a grenade or two. I know we're spoiled today because of things like ChatGPT, but the idea of NPCs hiding behind each other for cover is fascinating to me. As the developers upgrade everything post-launch, I can't help but wonder how smart the AI is going to be in a year. Will the police adapt and develop tactics? Will they learn from prior heists? Either way, let's get back on track. The best part about all these features is cooperation is the key focus. They want the community to play together without it being too overwhelming or boring. For example, all enemies have the same health no matter the difficulty, so even your sweaty friends won't get bored. But they did say they wanted players to hate every enemy, so be prepared to rage. Moving on to weapons, modifications will be the same as Payday 2, but guns will have their own progressions and paths. Preset weapons with mods are available to players, and yes, you still will earn XP towards base weapons. Overkill weapons are a power-up that you earn through your progress during a heist. The more stuff you do, like kills, objectives, etc., the faster you unlock your overkill weapon. One thing to appreciate about the new weapons is the randomized recoil. That's right, spray patterns are not as predictable as before. This is to guide players into picking specific guns and favoring them based on how they feel, which means there very well could be a gun meta in Payday 3. Last but not least, let's talk motion capture and design. The devs wanted to focus on realistic human movement when recording motion captures for their player models. They even went so far as to create backstories for all their NPCs. Some NPCs might react better or worse to hostage situations. This is to add a bit of an ethical dilemma in the player's mind. In other words, civilians have more value. They also said they wanted everyone to appreciate the environment they designed, but to also shoot everything in sight and experience the physics of the level. Also, this won't be a true replica of New York, but more of a Payday New York, sort of an alternate universe vibe. Which is a good segue into mentioning the focus on Hollywood-style effects like grenade physics and particle effects. As many of you know, what makes a game immersive is the little things done right. If you shoot a printer, it should shoot out papers. If you shoot glass, it should shatter into a million pieces and look cool in the process. That's what the devs want, and it's likely what we'll get. Payday 3 will launch with 8 unique heists, each with their own identity. The goal is to make each one feel like a set piece. Careful planning and design went into each and every aspect. The devs introduced soft fails, or basically different security levels in different areas, similar to a lot of first-person stealth games. You can make mistakes and recover by being escorted out or told to leave an area. Stealth isn't meant to feel like a failure when you get caught. Starbreeze and Overkill seem intent on listening to the player base and making this a very rewarding experience for new and seasoned players alike. With the promise of future-proofing things like animations, designs, and even upgrading the engine down the line, I can see this game having its own legacy alongside the rest of the franchise. Even if this game has paid DLC and will require players to always have an internet connection, based on what we've seen so far from the team, I know the $40 price tag makes it worth every penny. Also, if you don't feel like spending the $40, it's available for pre-install on Game Pass and will be available on September 21st. So that's everything we know thus far. Did I miss anything? Comment below and rope the community into the conversation. As more Dev Diaries come out, I'll be sure to do the dirty work and watch them for you. Let me know what you want to see next. And as always, thanks for watching.